Hey, envoy? Got a second? I could really use a favor. I've got to take a piss. Real bad. Do you think you could stand at my post while I go? Look, I know it's my fault. It won't happen again. Oh, I've got my whole shift ahead of me. I don't know if I can. Oh, God's bless you, Envoy. I'll be quick, I promise.
Someone should check on him. Not me, but someone.
Not that anyone asked, but we're setting a poor example. We should learn to hold it in.
Who needs fabric? We still have stock. Oh, you're back. What can I do for you? We still have various linens and silks in stock.
Thank the gods.
I hope... Thirdborn is a good community for my people. They've been through a lot.
Thirdborn's rough around the edge. Thirdborn. If it weren't for the Leviathan skeleton in the middle of town, I'd hardly recognize the place. Well, that's what I'm trying to nail down. You ever come back to a place and feel like the buildings are smaller and the colors are duller? Then you get it. Thirdborn was always this rugged oasis. Dangerous and out of the way, but bursting with vitality. It was a harbor for larger-than-life types. People like Capo, the Leviathan Slayer, and Tama. Glory seekers, trophy hunters, warriors trying to leave their battles behind. People who built around their stories and their scars. Me too. Being back. It felt like we were watching Thirdborn die a slow death. Yeah, but I thought age was supposed to bring wisdom. Something to balance out the back pains and creaky knees. I think what's eating at me is that Thirdborn seems rudderless. The Dream Scourge is one threat. Conflict with Adir is another. The Living Lands is changing, and Thirdborn feels like a barnacle on a moving ship. Temerity's leading them as best she can, but towards what? What are we doing out here besides surviving? For a while, I suppose. Eventually, you need more. What about you? You were sent by your emperor to investigate the Dream Scourge. Since then, you've died, met a secret god, and gotten swept up in tensions between your empire and our scattered settlements. You've been consistent. You brought Egwulf to Adir's justice, and the Stilgarrote's attack on Fjord went forward. Do you know what you're sailing towards, or are you drifting with the tides? It's good to know what you stand for. I envy that clarity sometimes. Thanks for talking. I hope Thirdborn is able to find its way somehow. A marker of his service to Thirdborn's defense, and something that helps his comrades identify his remains, if needed.
You always hope it won't come to that.
You hope it won't, but you know it might. It's an old Rauatayan naval tradition that Thirdborn's kept alive, and another debt I owe him. Where to start? It's a huge desert full of sandy wastes, canyons, and highlands. On a clear day, you can stand at one of the overlooks to gaze straight across the great sand sea and see no end to the dunes. Yeah, it's dangerous and stark. A lot like Rauatai, but in a different way. Sandstorms instead of typhoons. Guess that's part of what I liked about it. Familiar, but different. The story goes that a lot of the first arrivals were Rauataians without other prospects, too low on the ladder to take over the family trade, too poor to learn another. Exactly. Rauatai's an inhospitable environment to say the least, so my people have a proud tradition of seeking our fortunes elsewhere. Rauatai's got a big navy that always needs fresh blood, and there are plenty of opportunities for large, colorful mercenaries and bodyguards all over Aora. Of course not. We've also got poets, artisans, scholars, traders, you name it, just like anywhere else. But they're not the ones who built Thirdborn. It started as a convenient harbor for pirates and mercs to lie low. Bold, or desperate, fishing crews from Rauatai would follow seasonal catches out here. That tells you something about the people willing to attempt it. Over time, those early arrivals built huts, a proper harbor, and walls to protect them from all the hungry things in the desert. Well, that brought in a steady trickle of veterans, ruffians, trophy hunters, and rugged eccentrics. People looking for fresh adventure, or running from the consequences of their old ones. Your words, not mine. I've got a lot of memories here. And the longer I stayed away, the harder it felt to come back. Until you came along, I thought I'd be able to avoid it forever. Thirdborn's missing a lot of familiar faces. And the youngsters who've grown up and the new arrivals, they seem green. Like they're cut from a different cloth, a more delicate one.
This plague is tearing everything apart at the seams. Healing may take years, if not generations.
Maybe you're both right. Thirdborns only survived because the people were tougher than the wilds. I just hope the people living behind those walls know how to keep them standing. I'd never met Naoki. Asui arrived a few months before I left Thirdborn. I knew their squad mates better. Uriki was a ship's carpenter with the Rawatine Navy years ago. Came from a military family, but she never saw much combat herself. Manu was a deckhand on a pirate ship. Stopped in Thirdborn with his crew to resupply and never left. I don't think piracy suited him. Kiri, he was a sweet kid. Born shipboard to a mercenary captain who left him here and never came back. For the longest, I thought that was for the best. Me too. Most of all, I'm sorry I wasn't here to better prepare them.
This wasn't your fault. They just weren't ready.
Because there weren't enough seasoned soldiers to train them. A Thirdborn's in dire straits if they're sending people like this out to patrol. If you can believe it. I didn't think it was possible to talk them down, but you managed it. And you say more than their foolish hides. Those two fought for Rawatine in the Deadfire. They learned how to disrupt enemy movements and destroy supply lines. They'd have nipped and poked at your comrades at Eagle's Reach until Adir finally snapped back. At Thirdborn, most likely. All while the two of them remained secure and defended in their tower. Yeah. The problem is, when you go looking, you're bound to find one. Thirdborn's under threat, but if loose cannons like them fire at everything that moves, they'll draw even more trouble to our walls.
They lash out like cornered animals, giving the Steel Garrote a reason to fight back. Not that they need a reason.
Still, better not to give them one. You really think any amount of chest thumping would turn away Ludwig and the Steel Garrote? Or the full force of the Adiran army, if it came to that? The Living Lands is changing. We've got more ships coming to port every year. If it's not Adir, it'll be someone. Yeah, it was tough to see him like this. But I'm glad you didn't give him the heart. He's always been the toughest among us. And even if he won't admit it, he doesn't want anyone seeing him at his weakest. But it's more important that he say his goodbyes, properly. They would have taken it hard. I'm glad we could spare them that much. I'll be here if you need me.
The Dream Scourge is getting worse. First our land, then our animals. Now our people. If we don't put a stop to it, we're looking at the end of the Living Lands. I keep trying, and the world keeps punishing me for it. As if the Dream Scourge wasn't enough of a problem, the Adirans are profiting off our misfortune. They haven't come to help us. They're here to exploit our weakness. Try not to admire her too much. She is, after all, a monster. It's too bad. We're fighting for our lives, our souls, and our freedom. I don't know if we can win all three. You really think so? My apologies for acting cynical, but it feels as if nature, politics, and even the very gods are working against us. I don't appreciate being backed into a corner, but here I am. Despite everything that's happened, I'm so grateful to be working with Yatsli. In many ways, Quilici has been like a second father to me. But Yatsli, she's like my dirty aunt who's up to no good. Well, she's an expert in that field. While I have your attention, I've been thinking. Why is Inquisitor Ludwig suddenly interested in godless ruins? She's a smart one, I'll give her that. We should be ready for anything. Something tells me Ludwig isn't finished with us yet. I don't leave Emerald Stair often enough. With everything going on, there's been no time to explore. My city had to burn down before I could take a vacation. Sorry. I'm in a mood, if you couldn't tell. Only if you can stand the ramblings of a depressed bookworm. I used to think I had it all figured out. The Living Lands proved me wrong in so many ways. This entire island is the prison of a mad god. How is one Animancer supposed to compete with that? All we're missing is the juggling act. Maybe I'm being melodramatic, or maybe I'm not used to seeing things clearly. But what if Animancy has no future in the Living Lands? What if my entire career was a mistake? Did I? After what happened to my parents, I always thought the path chose me. You're a good listener as always, but I've taken enough of your time. I'll be fine, really. I'm not the first Animancer to question her life choices, and I won't be the last. What do you want to know? Anyone in particular? I warn you, I'm not the best judge of first impressions. Of course, she's brilliant, open to anything, and sees the world as she wants it to be. Yatsli gave me my first glass of wine, and the courage to approach a special someone. We have a lot of catching up to do. Indeed, old friends. When they died, Yatsli protected me. Made sure I had one consistent person in my life. I think that's why she gave me that glass of wine. Why she encouraged me to live my life to the fullest. She was making sure I hit all the milestones I could have missed. No one to get jealous over. To call it a relationship would be an insult to the word. But it was fun while it lasted. Animancy is the study of life. Unfortunately, we get so busy that we forget to live. So a little roll in the hay is good for the soul. Yatsli taught me that. Well, not the part about rolling in the hay. That was my idea, and I don't recommend it. Now that she's traveling with us, maybe she can teach you a thing or two. I think that covers everyone. And if my good opinion changes, you'll be the first to hear about it. If I must.
For the camp of an official Adiran envoy, I was expecting a little more. A proper bed, at least. But I suppose this will do for now. As long as you have a bath, of course. With how overwrought you Adirans can be, I expected at least some tacky rugs. But as riveting as it is to complain about our accommodations, I imagine you have another topic in mind? I'm the only buyer you'll find here, and I already have the jar. A lesson for next time, darling. It's always worth some haggling. Unfortunately, it's been quite some time since I've met another who focused on the godless as I do. And I imagine I'd be more knowledgeable on the subject than anyone else you could find. I've yet to be burned in a single flame trap, and I don't intend to start anytime soon. Fair guess, though. When I got my first grimoire as a child, I was trying out some of the fancy new spells I'd been given. I was attempting a simple illusion spell, but I must have slurred my words. The next thing I know, everything was on fire. I mean, my arm wasn't the only casualty. What is childhood but for silly things? When else can you get away with arson? My father was able to pull me from the flames as my mother doused them. I burned myself badly enough to give myself some vivid dreams, but the house still stood at the end. Of course. Now I only burn those that deserve it, like mosquitoes and university administrators. The only lasting damage was my burn mark and the dreams. Nightmares are still dreams, Envoy. Just not ones you'd recommend to others. They're not nearly as enjoyable as my more provocative dreams. Oh. Well, just be sure to have a quick release knot if you ever make that fantasy reality. Someone should learn from my mistakes. I certainly have no intention to.
I've been a lot of places I never wanted to go, but that was among the worst.
As delightful as you are, we've much to do and less time to do it in. Shall we go? Oh, Envoy, might I steal a moment of your time? Well, it's the waiting that makes the payoff so delicious, don't you agree? I can't believe Fjord's gone. A city of scientists, attacked for no reason. I'm going to personally find every Steel Garrote asshole and turn them to ash. I can't believe we were able to get as many out of town as we were. We were lucky that the Steel Garrote are all so bad at their jobs. At least we were able to get everyone to safety. Though with everything happening in Thirdborn, safe might be relative. At least I know Temerity will keep an eye on them. I think she knows what'll happen if she doesn't. I know, and she knows. Let's leave it at that. Long enough that I trust her to do her best by everyone. You see, Emerald Stair has Naku Tedek. For a young and aspiring godless scholar, it was a godsend, if you'll forgive the pun. And, as a young at heart godless scholar, I've traveled outside the stair to other ruins. That's how I met Temerity. Thirdborn's close to Naku Kubel. A girl's gotta eat sometime. Yes, why did I choose to settle down with a gorgeous scientist who loves me? What a mystery. I still go out often. I've catalogued many ruins, but there are always more. And coming home to a warm welcome is lovely. You should try it sometime, darling. Oh, part of it is my sparkling personality, of course, but a larger part of it is time. It's hard to hate someone when they drop by your lab with lunch after you've forgotten to eat again. As much as I'd love to, you don't travel with the kitchen. I can't promise anything. My mother always said that the way to a man's heart was through his stomach. Quilici and I got together the old-fashioned way, though. I saw a beautiful man across a smoky tavern. Then I dazzled him with my delightful personality. Then he showed me an abandoned ruin outside of town, and I was hooked. Oh, it's not a fairy tale, darling. We've been happy for the most part. Any rough patches got smoothed over well enough. I only thought about killing him once or twice. He's probably thought the same a bit more. I still can't quite believe that everything we've built is gone. A generation of work scattered to the wind. It makes you wonder how everything will turn out. Me? Well, I suppose that's an option. I'd need help, of course, but I'd at least ask for it. I'll think on it. Maybe it'd be a nice retirement plan for Quilici and me.
Governor Yatsley. I like the sound of that.
Thank you, Envoy. I feel a little less frazzled. I've got a lot to think on. Talk to you soon? Try not to have too much fun without me. How can I help, darling? These sudden changes in climate always mess with my coiffure. Does Adir have good fur maintenance products? Do you have a contact for that? Hard to keep up your routine when your home burns down, envoy. And I'll remember that comment. Truly, just a good long brushing through all my fur alone would do wonders. I've got some time before we see Quilici again, at least. It'll give me time to find something to remind him of what he's missing. In life, you make your own entertainment. I enjoy scandalizing the small-minded when I can. Quilici and I got used to the stairs early on. Thankfully, at least in Fjord, those stopped eventually. After 30 years, it's hard to still be surprised by us just drinking at the Magpie. Oh, she was still young. Quilici offered to help her study for and prepare her thesis as a favor to her parents. She was over day and night for months, and, well, now she's family. We adore her. All things considered, it's hard to complain about my life in Fjord. No, of course not. No one is perfect, but I forgive him many vices. Like, he sleeps with his socks on.
Right. How do you suggest we keep our feet warm at night? Light little fires between our toes?
You're too sweet. As much as I enjoy our little chats, dearie, we should really get going. Oh, but if you do end up finding any liniments, be sure to help a girl out. You know, Envoy, we've traveled enough that I think I've gotten a handle on your style. Style of fighting, I mean. Your fashion sense is more opaque. But listening to your incantations, they could use some tightening up. I could probably teach you a thing or two, if you're up for it. What do you say? Of course, darling. Easy as pie. What? Out of breath already? Talk to one of the boys. See if they can help with your stamina, dear. Well, I've taught you all I can. Let's hope you put it to good use. I wish we could have done more for them. Capo and Chico, I mean. But if I were in his shoes, I hope I'd make the same choice. Though I'd like to pick a more fun way to die. Exactly my point. I can only hope that at the end I have some control over things. That I can go out as Yatsley. And don't you forget it. But it gives you something to think about. I mean, not everyone gets to come back like you did, Envoy. Well, that's all I had to say. I'll let you get back to whatever you were doing. Unless there's something else you want to chat about? How can I help, darling? Careful what you wish for, darling. So, the Godless, or the Akita, as they called themselves, were the original folks who lived in the living land. They arrived on the shores of a new land and settled there, living with the land instead of trying to tame it. You sound certain. Well, that would align with my own findings. But how could you know that? Oh, well, we should definitely trust that. But dubious metaphysics notwithstanding, you corroborate my theory. The Godless are so singular. Their art and architecture, you never see it in Rawatai or Ishamatal or, well, Adir. But in their artwork, they reference escaping, fleeing, seeking refuge, so they must have come from somewhere. My guess, they originally came from Yesua. Yesua, a continent, cut off from the rest of the world, hidden by eternal storms, one of the 3 hubs of the Angwithan Empire. 10 years ago, you could say it wasn't real, that it was a dream, but they said the same of Ukaiso. Suddenly, the appearance of a mythical land doesn't seem so implausible. There was some kind of schism, an ideological one. From what I can glean, the Godless were staunchly against the gods, hence their name. There are even some not-so-kind murals of the gods. It seems like the Godless really took their anti-theism seriously. I know! Well, I think we've covered everything, don't you? Rather, as much as I think you'll withstand. Hope you enjoyed talking about this as much as I did, dearie. How can I help, darling? We've been traveling together for a little while. I just have to know. Did you purposefully choose such colorful company, or is that just what you attract naturally? I mean, I'm very clearly a delight, so it's obvious why you let me stick around. I'd seen Kai around once or twice, and always thought he was charming enough. He's got a sharp tongue, though. Makes me like him even more. And Marius. I don't know what's lurking in him, but I do think he should speak to someone on it. If he reaches out, do try, will you? As for Giada, well, clearly Giada is a gem. As for me, well, I'm just as riveting as you, but the boys are giving me a run for my money. You've got the thorn of a secret god inside of you. I think your uniqueness goes without saying, my dear envoy. You do strike me as a people person. Tell me, do you get along with all you meet? I understand. It's hard to be away from one you love, even for the best reasons. Can I ask about them? Your sweetheart? Putting that experience taming wild stallions to good use, is she? A woman after my own heart. And here I thought I had a wild youth exploring ruins. You might be putting me to shame, dearie. Quilichi is quite good at knowing when to be sweet and when to be sour.
Yatsli, that's my surrogate father you're talking about? Spare my imagination, if you please.
Oh, you knew the risks when you came over uninvited, darling. It's on your head. Well, you've satisfied my curiosity. I'll leave you alone to do whatever envoys do.
Between the two of us, thank you for helping Yatsli reach that vase. Maybe it seems like nothing to you, but to her it's everything. When you consider how many Orlans and dwarves there are, it's outrageous that we build so high off the ground. She's worth the effort, as I'm sure you're well aware. Don't let her size fool you. On the inside, Yatsli stands as tall as a mountain. One of these days she's going to change the world, shake things up, and I'll be at her side, grinning like a fool. Talk to her. I'm sure you two have a lot in common. What are you so curious about? I'll tell you whatever I know. I'm afraid not. I've spent a little time in Dawnshore, but this place is a mystery to me. It's good to be somewhere different. Somewhere I can build new memories. Whenever I'm reminded of how big this island really is, it makes my problems feel smaller. You too. Katoa and Hayako. An interesting pair. Despite their clumsy methods, they were just defending their community. I'm grateful that you showed restraint. That is more understanding than most of your countrymen. I only bring it up because people are growing wary of your empire. With good reason. When they take their anger out on you, don't judge them too harshly. We all make mistakes. Anyway, just wanted to get that off my chest. Not before I've done some reading. When I joined you, I thought we'd be exploring the intersection of the physical and the spiritual, not bickering over sulfur. Yet here we are. Without those mines, Thirdborn has no gunpowder. They lost an advantage when they needed it most. Perhaps, but this is no time to be fighting with one hand tied behind your back. At the end of the day, bullets are of limited use against the Dream Scourge. And it'll take more than gunpowder to wrest the living lands out of your empire's clutches. Anyway, what do I know? I'm an animancer, not a strategist. Pleasant dreams.
Yonatan, listening to Yatsley's thoughts about godless ruins is one thing. Bringing her along for the rest of the trip is something else. Well, don't you think it's a little convenient? You need to go somewhere no one ever goes, and here she is to show you the way? If she's read anything about the garden, it was written centuries ago. Obviously, things have changed since then. Bothered? Pedraku. It's my job to guide you as safely as possible. What you're doing isn't safe. I'll go along with whatever you decide. Just don't be disappointed when she doesn't show you what you wanted to see. Anyway. Ask away. Let's see. Shatterscarp doesn't want to kill you, really, but it isn't interested in helping you survive either. The key here is water and shade. Cover your skin, or it'll be dried out in no time and you'll be as red as a Balrog's throat. You might be worried about saving water, but what you want to do is try not to sweat. Stay in shade as much as you can. And don't drink the water from the plants out here. They're all full of parasites and poisons. Getting sick out here is the worst. What do you need? Right, changing the subject. Ask away. Yes, I did. The less we talk about that, the better. Thank you. Not everyone accepts that some things are best left in the past. Well, I'm one of the very few people who spends most of their time out in the wilds and haven't gotten themselves killed yet. I know the difference between hay-bleed toxin and high-tox bloom, which is something you should be really thankful for. And you know the Balrog and the grinning Balrog? No, but I am one of the few who have seen a Balrog and lived. Mostly because I had the brains to run the Dragu out of there. The key is survival. I understand that, and a lot of people don't. And that's why they're dead, and I'm still here. We're gonna get you where you're going, Envoy. Alive and with as few blithe tail bites as possible. That, more or less, is all you need to know about me. Oh? Do tell.
We've already talked about this. I hope this isn't going to be a problem. Good. No, I didn't poison that drink. Even the rankest Nimdude walking doesn't deserve that kind of death. They clearly heard about my reputation and thought I'd do something like that. Question is, why would he drink from that cup? Right. Why do they do what they do? The mystery of the baby wit in its natural habitat. If he was a real hunter, he'd have studied his target and known what I was capable of. Lucky for me, he was just a tourist in need of a good reminder. We've already talked about this. I hope this isn't going to be a problem. Good. More often than you think. Someone's always trying to get a reputation by going after people who have one. Turns out those of us who have a reputation sometimes came by it honestly. No, I didn't poison that drink. Even the rankest Nimdude walking doesn't deserve that kind of death. They clearly heard about my reputation and thought I'd do something like that. Question is, why would he drink from that cup? Well, that much is obvious. If he was a real hunter, he'd have studied his target and known what I... Look. What do you need? Right. Pleasant dreams. I suppose if you're on a wild goose chase, there are worse places to do it. At least I know how to deal with those sorts of things. Rope, lantern, extra water skins. Yatsley's got you going in all sorts of abandoned ruins. Who knows what's down there? More questions, most likely. And spiders. How come the answers are never in a little oasis with shade and drink service? I just want to make sure we've covered all the options before we dive headfirst into another deadly ruin. I'm sure we'll be fine. I just hope this is all worth it. Anyway. If I must. This place was bad enough before the Dream Scourge. Now it's downright hazardous. I remember what it was like to be blindly optimistic. I envy you. This used to be a fertile land, with lakes, forests, all of that. Then everything suddenly changed several hundred years ago. Now it's blasted deserts and dried up seas. Anything that lives here is simply stubborn enough not to die.
That's the most apt description of Thirdborn I've ever heard.
Maybe you will, but what about poor Kai? Huh? What about him? Just keep your head and you'll be fine. Let me look out for the others. What do you need? You too.
Yatsley, did the godless believe anything about the stars? Any story?
Seeds of change, their petals sprout across the barren land. They sing to the unwanted ones, and the unwanted ones sprout in turn. The soil remembers what it once was. It will soon be whole, safe. The soil does not want these cities. It yearns for silence, for the kestrel song. But first, the sprouted ones will grow. They will bring the stillness and the bird song. The dam falls. The river returns to its source. It is how the land was and should always be. We want all of them gone. We wish for life to flourish again. Efforts paid in blood, they lie to the earth, to themselves. Death nourishes the soil. All things come from the rot. The spider devours her mate to lay her eggs. We ponder, dream of shifting sands now. We will speak again.
We've got company!
Another soul for the wheel.
On your right, dear.
Need better equipment.
Let's finish this.
Turn around.
Behind you!
Maybe sit this one out, Yatsley?
I just have to make it back. One step at a time. I can't wait to get back to Eagle's Reach.
Tonics and poultices for sale. It'll probably cure what... Yours tonics and poultices for sale. It'll probably cure what ails you.
Greetings and salutations, traveler. Welcome to our shop. Still a work in progress, of course. But once you stop being blurry, we can get to business. No, my vision's perfect. Just since I got bit by that giant spider, things have been blurry. It probably wasn't even venomous. The bite's not even that itchy. I appreciate the concern. Now, if you don't mind my asking, how did you find us? Really? Daiko sent you? Can I ask just what he expected? Did he think sending a messenger would make me forget what an ass he is? You're the one who made things complicated. It's just like Daiko. Now that I've done all the legwork, he just wants to swoop in and take half of everything. He's always been like this ever since we were children. Clearly, I'm the more industrious brother. Why? What part of illegal substances made you think speaking to the Tiranui was the best move? Why did you have to bring my brothers into this? No one likes a pedant. This is what I get for mixing business and family. I should have known better. I thought that since Daiko and I were twins, we'd be similar enough for us to not fight. Guess I was wrong. Now you tell me. You know what? It doesn't matter. As long as I get paid. Preferably more than Daiko. Here's the package you wanted. That'll... Whoa. Couldn't feel my head for a moment. Oh, that'll cost you, of course. I'm fine. Just a little woozy. It'll pass.
Aiko, did you forget the pitch again?
No, of course not. Our lovely customer just loved it so much he wants to hear it again. Our wares are locally sourced and only harvested from those who have been humanely put down.
He means we find dream thralls who are already dead.
Only because we're too scared to kill them ourselves.
My friends, our client must be bored by such details.
I want to crumple into a little ball and forget the last 5 minutes.
Oh, of course. When you say it that way, it makes perfect sense.
Just inhale the substance sharply through your nose and it's perfectly safe. Probably. Shortly after, you should see visions beyond your wildest dreams.
Sea blossoms, fields of stars. What does he know of how we dream?
Now, about payment. Will you really not pay me?
Oh dear. Not blessed with brains, was he?
The first one's always free. Or so I have heard.
Oh, I get it. A free sample. And then you'll tell your friends, right? In that case, I thank you.
Don't count your chickens before they hatch. We haven't even tested your wares.
Oh, and be careful. It's supposed to be an especially potent batch. Tell your friends, the friends not right here with you, I mean. Actually, before you go, am I the only one who just lost their vision? Oh, I don't feel so good.
Aiko dead? I told him that spider bite wasn't supposed to be the size of a melon, didn't I, Shizu?
Yes, Copy, you did several times.
Several times? Now I'll have to find someone else to let me dissect bodies be fine. Ugh, that'll take forever.